So maybe you're in a relationship that's not right for you, or you're in a household that's not, treating you with respect, and you might not have the financial option to move right now. You might not have a whole bunch of options. Like, do you have a space in the backyard? Do you have a space in your room? Can you go for a walk around the neighborhood? Can you go to the library? Do you have a friend that you can talk to? Um, like something like, do you have a corner of the room? Do you have a, can you look at your day and say, okay, this is when they're not home, this is when I have a moment, and I need to maximize on that moment so I can clear my head and kind of get in touch with myself, even if it's just for a minute or 5 minutes.
Yeah. I think that's the advice. You have to start small wherever you can. It reminds me of about a year ago, I did a presentation at a nonprofit that works with the elderly and people kind of living in the margins of poverty. And this lady came up to me, elderly lady, and said the person next door is doing drugs, getting into fights, in making noise. The police are coming at night. I can't sleep. I don't feel safe in my space. So what I did, and I'll put the link for the video, and she said this really helped her, is just how can you create a physical space? So just using things like putting things on your windows and blinds, the way you set up your furniture so that like if somebody, there's a great guy on YouTube named Cliff Tam who talks about feng shui, just setting up your room so that, actually I just moved my camera because there's my door. I have bad feng shui, right? Because I've got the door behind me. But those kinds of things are this kind of feeling of energy that, can you set up your room so that when people walk in, they're not immediately looking at you, but there are these little things, and it's also mental space. Can you create a mental space where you're quiet at least 5 or 10 minutes every day where you feel safe to do that? I used to do that when I didn't live in great circumstances. I would do that when I would get on the bus, for example. I'd get on the bus, I'd sit in the back, I'd sit somewhere in the window with the sun on my face and just be quiet. Wherever you can find it, take those protected, safe moments to just be quiet within yourself. And those are surprisingly powerful to help you build up that strength until you can get to safe living environments.
My wife and I watch that guy too about the feng
Mhm.
shui,
Yeah,
and
he's great.
I, I remember living in probably not the best area, and my apartment building was kind of like on a main street, and you would come out and there was no wall. There was no you open the door and you're immediately on the street.
Ah, yeah.
And right to the left of it, there was like maybe like a 2 foot section of wall, because that was the end of the building, and there was an alley.
Ah,
So it was like Main Street alley. And I remember, there would be shootings. I remember this one time it was like 12 o'clock at night. Trigger warning for people that might need to, lower the volume, or skip ahead, 30 seconds. But um, someone was using a rape whistle. And
oh.
so I remember I had someone over, and it was super late at night. And I was like, oh my, like, hey, like, is that a rape whistle? I was so naive at this point. Like, I go outside, it's 12 o'clock at night. I go down the street, and then there's just like this figure just blowing the whistle. Nobody around, just one dude in the middle of the dark, just blowing the whistle. Obviously, I was like, oh, okay. So I go back inside, and I realize like this guy is probably using the whistle to probably bait somebody into coming to try to help somebody in the middle of the night.
Right.
So what I did to kind of give myself that, like, getting into this new neighborhood, learning the ropes, I went to the local, there was like this army supply store, and I got a knife.
Hmm.
And I spent a couple of weeks just learning how to like pull it out of my pocket, defensive moves, and just I remember, like, it didn't make the neighborhood any safer. I never had to use it, but it made me feel like if something does happen, I have something.
Hmm.
Like, I'm not just out there
Yeah.
floating with nothing. And I
Yeah.
think that time I spent learning those skills was a mental safe space for me.
There's also things you can be doing to prepare, like, we talk about this sometimes, like being a, kind of weekend prepper. Have some water in reserve, having some food that doesn't need to be cooked, protein bars or something like that. Thinking about what do one thing I did for my family is I made a sheet that they can print out that has everyone's phone numbers, in case anything happens and we can't be phone calls or addresses, things like that that we don't really keep track of because it's all in our phones. Do you have a little bit of cash that you can use, in case the ATMs don't work, things like that? Or I think could also be really helpful to help you feel like you've got some platform of safety. You're not going to be caught completely off guard when things happen. Yeah, so I think safety and protection, feeling those safety and protection moments, it's really the first thing you need to do because it clears your mind. It takes it down a notch. It takes the fear down a notch to say, okay, I've got some safe spaces that I can be in, even if it's just in my own mind, and I've got some things that I'm preparing for, even if it's just a little bit of stuff that I do just around the house. Yeah, so I think that's really important. That's the first step. Um, a lot of this, I'm actually doing training right now to be a community emergency response person. So it's called CERT, Community Emergency Response Team. And you can do this in your neighborhood, in your community, just sign up and they teach you all of these skills so that you can, if there's a natural disaster or there's something happens, you can go out into the community and help other people. So it's really helpful if you're really feeling that kind of high level of anxiety, go and do some kind of training that will help you feel like you've got a handle on things.